Are you constantly fighting a battle against the flood of emails, notifications, and a to-do list that just never seems to end? Yeah, you are not alone. We're about to unpack the secrets to conquering all that chaos, and we're getting them straight from David Rock's incredible book, Your Brain at Work.
So, here's the game plan. We'll kick things off by figuring out why our brains feel so completely overloaded in the first place. Then, we'll dive into how to manage that chaos. We're also going to cover how to seriously boost your performance, handle tricky social stuff, and even build a daily routine that your brain will thank you for. And we'll wrap up with a look at the future of work.
Okay, let's meet Emily and Paul. And I have a feeling their story is going to sound really familiar. She's a VP of marketing, he's an IT consultant, and their days, well, they're just a relentless storm of emails, back-to-back meetings, and projects all fighting for attention. This is the reality for so many of us, and it's pushing our brains to the absolute brink.
So how do we deal with this? Well, David Rock introduces this amazing idea he calls neuroleadership. It's really simple, but it's so powerful. The idea is that to lead anyone, including yourself, you first have to understand how your own brain is wired. In today's world, this isn't some nice-to-have luxury. It's an absolutely essential skill for surviving and, more importantly, for thriving.
Now, the star of this show is your prefrontal cortex, or PFC for short. I want you to think of it as the CEO of your brain. It's in charge of all the big stuff, juggling decisions, stopping you from saying the wrong thing, planning out your week, and keeping you focused on what you're doing. It's an incredibly powerful part of you. But, and this is the kicker, it has a tiny, tiny fuel tank. Seriously, your super powerful PFC can only handle about 5 things at once. That's it, just 5. This one little limitation is pretty much the source of that feeling of being completely and totally overwhelmed.
And here's what those 5 things look like. Imagine your brain is a little stage, and you've only got 5 actors on it. Each one has a critical job. One's trying to understand stuff, one's deciding what to do, another is digging up memories, one is trying to memorize new info, and the last one is pushing away distractions. Every single time you try to multitask, you're telling those 5 actors to do 3 jobs each. And what do you get? Well, you get a total mess, missed lines, forgotten cues, and a completely exhausted cast.
So if our brains have these hardwired limits, how do we start working with them instead of constantly fighting against them? That's exactly what we're jumping into next. We're going to learn how to calm down the brain's little alarm system and get our focus back from the grip of all that chronic stress.
Rock gives us 3 really simple but incredibly effective tactics. First up, label your emotion. It sounds too simple, right? But just saying, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now, can actually dial down its intensity. Second, take micro breaks. We're talking 30 seconds of just breathing deeply can hit the reset button. And third, reframe challenges. See them as a chance to grow, not as a threat.
All right, let's build our way back to focus. This 5-step process is your blueprint for retraining your brain to do deep, meaningful work. First, you've got to identify your single most important priority. Just one. Then get rid of the noise around you. Figure out what your personal flow disruptors are. Use a simple cue, maybe a timer, to pull yourself back in. And this is key. Reward yourself right away. That little loop will literally start to rewire your brain to love focusing.
Okay, so we've got a handle on our stress. We're starting to find our focus. Now, how do we really kick our performance into high gear? The answer might actually surprise you. It's not about grinding harder. It's about embracing 2 things we often push to the side: happiness and sleep.
This is such a critical point. Happiness isn't just some fluffy feeling. It's basically a performance-enhancing drug for your brain. You see, when you feel good, your brain gets a nice flood of dopamine and oxytocin. These are chemicals that literally make you smarter, more creative, and better at solving problems. Happiness is a tool. You gotta use it.
And the exact same thing goes for sleep. When you're sleeping, your brain is working overtime. It's organizing memories from the day and recharging all its circuits. If you skimp on sleep, you're pretty much sabotaging your brain. The keys are pretty simple: consistency in your sleep schedule, a good wind-down routine before bed, and hey, don't be afraid of a strategic power nap to reset during the day.
So far, we focused a lot on managing ourselves. But what about the world outside our own heads? Specifically, how do we handle change and, other people? Our brains are naturally wired to resist change because it makes us use energy to rewrite old, comfortable patterns. But lucky for us, there's a model that makes this whole process way, way easier.
And this is it, Rock's absolutely brilliant SCARF model. It breaks down 5 social triggers that our brains are constantly scanning for. Get them right and people feel great. That's a reward state. Get them wrong and you trigger a threat response. Take status.
Think about how good it feels when you're recognized for your work. That's a status reward. For certainty, a clear plan reduces anxiety. For autonomy, being trusted to run with a project feels amazing. Being micromanaged feels like a threat. Relatedness is just that feeling of being on the same team. And fairness? Get this. An unfair situation can light up the same parts of the brain as physical pain. Wild, right?
Whew, we've covered a ton of ground. Now it's time to bring it all home. The final piece of the puzzle is to actually weave these strategies into a daily routine that sets your brain up for a win every single day.
So here's a sample blueprint for what that could look like. You could start your day with gratitude, which primes your brain for positive thinking. Then you block out time to crush your most important task while your brain is fresh. After that, you take a real break, go for a walk, maybe a quick power nap. You save your collaborative, team-based work for the afternoon when we're naturally a bit more social, and you end your day with a quick wind down to close things out. Remember, this isn't a rigid prison, it's a flexible framework for a better workday.
So what does all this mean for the future of work? Well, David Rock's strategies aren't just a collection of productivity hacks. They're a roadmap for creating a totally new way of working, one that's smarter, healthier, and, at the end of the day, just more human.
This is the real promise of learning to work with your brain instead of against it. When you apply these strategies, you can literally transform distraction into deep focus, stress into resilience, and all that busy work into actual, meaningful progress.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. You've got the blueprint now. What is one small change you are going to make starting today? How are you going to start redesigning your workday so that you don't just survive, but you actually truly thrive?